in my time when there's National Front in Mitcham, Pollard Hill, said the teachers done nothing. So I had to fight, whether I got into trouble or not.
Yeah.
They said, what am I supposed to die? Because your sense of playing fair and being non-violent, you cannot sanitize aggression and violence in the human race. You can't.
Yeah,
They said, all you do is suppress it and then have a big explosion.
Yeah.
So it was like a perfect storm.
Yeah.
Family betrayal, lying son, deceitful caseworker, judge corroborating it, and apathy about doing anything about it. Saying, oh, well, it's just one of those things. Your son doesn't want to live with you. So that's that.
And that is... Good afternoon. Welcome to Disqualified Dad. Firstly, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Also, if you want to help support the channel, there's a PayPal link in the description. Send your donations there. And thank you to all of those that are sending me donations already. I appreciate all of yous. Also, one more thing. Yes, t-shirts. We've got Disqualified Dads t-shirts coming out and merchandise. And in time, we're going to have a link where you can purchase Disqualified Dads merchandise. But for now, I'm here in the Deep South, Bandit Country, with my friend Shaun. Shaun, introduce yourself, tell us a bit about yourself, and tell us a little bit about Equal Starts and what you do.
Well, I started off campaigning social activism 5 years ago officially.
Give us your name first, Shaun. Give us your name.
My name is Shaun Buchanan. I'm the director of Equal Start. I started this organisation 5 years ago, but I've been campaigning for around 9 years now. I set up this organisation to help majority dads with parental alienation, mental health, but also disaffected mothers with the non-resident parents that are being abused by their partners, just to make sure that, you know, there's not a gender bias.
Okay, Shaun, let's just strip it back a little bit. Firstly, so let's go back to before you started Equal Starts. What made you get into... What made you start this? What happened? Can you tell us a bit about your own journey? Was it something you went through? Is it something you experienced and you thought, hold on, is this what's going on out here? Is there something that triggered you to do this or start this? What made you start this?
You know, my journey with that is that when my parents used to have their domestic arguments when I was a young boy, under 10, and I just noticed when they had arguments, my mum would throw my dad's clothes out onto the street, onto the balcony, and said he's not allowed to come back in. So that was the first signpost for me when I said, you know,
as a kid?
Yeah, right. I think that's a bit odd. So as I got older and I used to see these kind of arguments on a regular basis, I used to think, why is it always the men that would have to leave? So I didn't have a personal situation with my own children yet because I didn't have any. But as I had my first son, I saw again the injustices, the welfare system supporting more social housing. If there was any kind of argument, she'd want the one to tell me that you have to leave and things like that. So because I always had my own place, I didn't really suffer how other men suffered.
Okay.
But my first problems with my own individual
So as a
life.
kid watching, so firstly, as a young man, you notice that conditioning of if there's an argument between mum and dad, you subconsciously have that imprinted that dad is going to be the one leaving. You clock that from a young age. And as I've said, this day and age, like I said, before I faced my own situation and during when I was going through all of this, like even in the relationship, subconsciously me and all fathers know on some level that it's an accepted societal position that you're going to leave, you're not going to see your kids, you're going to lose contact, and you're probably going to... It's an accepted position, but once you enter the system, you realize there's laws actually backing and supporting this. Before you carry on, Shaun, let me adjust your mic to this side here, as you're facing me here when we're talking. Right, so carry on. So that was your subconscious imprinting from a young age. And then as you grew older and got into your own relationships, you're saying you started suffering the same sort of thing. Well, in the sense that you had to leave, or if you had problems in a relationship, you're the one who had to sort of...
Well, my first son's mother, it wasn't a harmonious relationship. Within a few weeks of meeting her, even though we discussed before and that we didn't want to have children until we finished university, even though she agreed, 6 weeks later she was pregnant. So I was already agreed by that. I said, look, I didn't really want to have children with someone like you because you're not the kind of person I settle down with. So I think that's what poisoned the foundation.
A rocky start.
Yeah. Even though I accepted it in the end, as we went on now, if we had any kind of arguments, you would say, oh, she had children before me, so she had 2 other children. So I used to say, look, I don't mind playing surrogate dad as long as you listen to me. She would say, no, I'm not going to put up with that unless you stay with me and support me and my other children. So I said, that's fine. So we came to a reasonable compromise. Once I moved her out of her mother's home, and we got a place in Fulton Heath.
You got a place together.
We got a place together. Yeah, I still kept my place though, as a safety net. Always have a man came.
Listen, boys, young men, take note of that. Yeah, very important. Carry on.
So that's only because of my experiences with my own parents. So I always said that if that happened, I must have a safety net. If the sky falls in, I must have a place I can retreat to.
Yeah, I didn't have one.
I've always kept that, but that's how I used to when I used to do.
I moved her into my safety net space. So when it all went off, I was thrown out of my safety net of my place. That's what happened.
I know. I've seen it too often. So from 7 years old, I thought that's not gonna happen to me. As you can see, we're here now.
Okay, so, just so I understand. So you and your ex at the time, or not ex at the time, you and your missus at the time, you were together going university, you're in a relationship, you didn't plan on having any kids, you agreed that you're going to finish your studying and then you two are going to have kids, yeah? But a few weeks into this relationship or after this discussion or at some point, she suddenly goes against the plan and falls pregnant, and it was an accident, I presume. She says it's a mistake. And then you weren't happy. You were already, what's the word I'm looking for? You had a little bit of resentment because that's not what was agreed. So you're slightly duped, you could argue, yeah? But that already sort of made the relationship that little bit toxic in the sense that, and she already had 2 children, you were saying. So you guys then decided, look, in order to make this work, because we're going to have a baby, let's get a place together, let's settle down, yeah? And then you took on the 2 kids and settled down with her in a place that you guys were rented together, you rented a place together, but you kept your place as well as a little safety net just in case things go sour, yeah? Carry on from there. So what happened?
So after the first year or so, I used to see her spending habits. I said, you're not very responsible as a mother. So she didn't like that. Her eldest son favoured me over his own dad, which I said is a bit odd because his dad still sees him every other week.
So you had a good twice relationship with him.
But the middle one, his dad went around, so I could more accept that because his dad's not really involved. So he listens to me, and obviously the relationship is good. But what I noticed, anytime I used to discipline them, she would tell me, "Oh, don't talk to them like that. You need to leave." So what I used to do, I used to go back to my place and say, "Listen, I don't have to part with this. So I can find someone else." So because the desperation to keep me, because obviously I had no other children. I was working and 2 part-time jobs and going to university. She thought, "Oh, let me try and make it work." But as time went on, I found out more stuff about her family. There was like molestation running through 2 generations. There was even like black magic going on, stuff like that. So I said, you know what, this is not the kind of people I want to be mixed up with. But the final straw what made me say, you know what, I've got to let you go. She went to Birmingham. I came back from seeing my granddad, who was dying of prostate cancer, and I had £200 sterling left. Came in to do my new media journalism exam, 2007 January, and she said she needed some money because there was no food in there. So I gave her the last £200 I had. She took it and went and bought a television from is it Myra's Travellers that sell the televisions at the back of the trucks? Broken, had water in it, didn't work, and then she bought some trainers and went partying in Birmingham with her friends, thinking I want to find out. So what happened? My younger sister, told me that she's gone off to Birmingham and she hasn't bought any shopping. So when I found her and I said, "Oh, what's happened? Where are you?" She said, "Oh, I'm just around the corner with my friends." I said, "You're going to Birmingham on my money under false pretenses?"
Where were the kids at this time? Like
you know, because I just come back from Jamaica and come to university. So I said, "That's madness, or what are you doing?" And she said, "Oh, well, you know, I'm having some fun and I'm around with my friends." I said, "Yeah, but I've been told you're in Birmingham." So I said, "You know what? I'm tired of these games with you. It's over." So that was the culmination of 18 months of obviously the mistrust,
just
underlying toxicity.
All right, let me just understand, Shaun, because there's a lot of information. Let's slow this down again there, just so that the viewers can understand these dynamics in relationships. Because I think also when guys get together, I don't know if women see it the same way or not, but if you've never been with a woman or a man that already has his kids, when you move into one unit or one family, or you're together and you're playing the stepdad or the stepmom, those who have not experienced these dynamics, they don't fully understand it. Like, they just presume it's all happy families and I'll treat them like my own kids. And that is a fantasy. That's a fallacy, You'll never be that kid's mum or dad. So when you, for example, from a man's perspective, where you care about these 2 kids that weren't yours, but there's an element of you have to sometimes discipline them in the sense that if they're doing something wrong, you guys say, "Listen, bro, just chill out, allow it, calm down, or don't upset your mum, whatever. You got to do that thing. And what people don't realize, and look, men would do this as well, I presume, yeah. Mother gets a bit defensive because that's her kid. Mother's first priority should be, and it is normally, especially in these step relationships. And there's only a handful of sensible women I've met where when the stepdad or the stepmom is getting involved in that dynamic of discipline or having a word with the stepchildren, they let it be, think it's all right, he is here, he's part of their life, he's an adult, and they need to respect him, and he's enforcing some good values here. But most times what happens is people get triggered, bro, and they get defensive over their own flesh and blood, yeah? And yeah, like
it's unnatural.
Yeah, so in your situation, just to clarify, you had to obviously have some disciplinary sort of conversations with these stepkids, and every time you did that, she threw you out.
Well, she told me she didn't throw me out. Physically, she couldn't do that.
She didn't throw you out.
And she could never call the police because what happened, I used to keep records on her. From one, she said she's having a child for me against her will. So what I done is I kept a dossier. So because I've seen the experiences of my uncles growing up, I already was well versed and said I'm not putting up with this when I see there's a female that is not really on your side, maybe a bit toxic, hypocritical. These are the safety nets that I advise any man to do with once he's having these kind of problems and they're prone to lying or they've made a foundational error with trust. Because that's usually just the tip of the iceberg. And once they get comfortable and their feet are under the table, it's only going to get worse.
Okay, look, I've seen this on other podcasts and I've seen this on other platforms where the counter argument to this was like, so someone would say to you now, yeah, but Shaun, if you weren't planning on having a kid with her, or the classic line is, you should have chosen better. Or if you weren't planning on having kids with this woman, you're going to university, what were you doing with her? Or if you knew all of this, did you know all of this about her before, let's say she got pregnant? Did you know this? Or were you just going with it, thinking, look, you're a young man, you're together, you're having a good time. It was fun, you were having fun, but having kids and starting a family is a different battle. It's a different beast compared to just, she's good fun, we have a laugh, we're friends, we have a laugh. So it was a bit of that for you, but you're saying in her mind, she thought,
yeah, she get claws into me.
I can get this one locked down, basically.
Because think about it, 24, no children, shared housing, had a little golf Mark III, and 2 part-time jobs, doing door work, market research, irritating people on the phones. So we did a survey, and then I was going to university full time.
So you were a good.
To be fair, with her help, because she helped me fill out the application form for it.
Okay, fair enough.
So initially the whole thing with her, she would, when she came around to my shared place, because she still lived at home with her mum with the 2 kids, along with her sister, she would buy me groceries. Okay, so she'd come around and think, she would get me little DVDs and things like that. Very intense, but obviously for me it was just a ruse in the end. Yeah, but I didn't mind that because it was nice. I had other people as well. To be fair. So and she put up with that. So I thought, so she knows how it is. She's on a level. It was part of a thing bigger plan the way I see it.
She finessed you, bro. You were rusing it. He was finessing you, bro.
Yeah, to be fair, it wasn't so much. It's the lack of discipline. Because the one time that I thought, you know what, I'm going to be a bit lax.
Yeah,
the child came out of it. Yeah, so it's the one time.
You're 24, she's putting up with all your playing and messing around. So you're thinking, man, this girl's on a level, man. She's with me. She's happy for me. She understands me, bro. She understands me, man. She buying me groceries. Bro, come on, man. You put your guard down and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. That was it.
Okay, so look, after the pregnancy, then, is it after that stage you started noticing all right, people argue now, this day and age, that would be called financial control or coercive control. So we won't go into that. But you notice that irresponsible, they say negative things. Did you notice them after you moved in together?
To be fair, it wasn't so bad because when I first moved in with her, in terms of like domestic work, she was good at giving advice. She's very entrepreneurial, to be fair. If you met her, she's charismatic. On the surface, you would never think, there's anything wrong with her. But as I started to have problems, like, when it said, look, the children are driving crazy, you moaned to me about it. And I said, if you give them routine and structure, I never grew up like this. I said, they'll embrace it as long as it's consistent.
Okay.
So she saw these positive aspects, but then she would pull it down when she couldn't be bothered. So I said, you're just making a rod for your own back. You're stressing yourself out. And then obviously I said some of the male company keep. I said I'm not gonna put up with it.
Yeah, we're
Progressive.
old school, bro. Yeah,
Yeah. So I
no,
said,
bro,
look,
not happening.
I said I'm not. If you want to have children for me, so these have to stars have to stop. Otherwise,
Bro, no,
it's not.
that's
We're not gonna
happening.
make it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
because she saw that my parents are married still, nuclear family, she thought I was gonna be like that. I said, yeah, I wanted to be like my
You
dad,
did
but
want that, yeah, bro.
obviously, I said it's not worked out like that. So I had the firstborn son, which I was people. I said, thank God he was a son and not a girl with her.
Okay, so look, you just to clarify, you stuck it out really is for your baby in it, yeah. You were gonna make it. Okay, you were gonna try and make a go of it for your baby that you had with her, yeah. That was your priority. Ultimately, I'm gonna ask you a question, yeah, because I mean, I know guys that have lost contact with kids that they've never seen or from a baby, like they've lost contact, yeah. And I say to people, look, yeah, sometimes after years of seeing a baby grow up, having those memories, and then losing contact, may be harder than breaking contact with a baby. Yeah, men maybe I think bond a little later with a baby. You got a bit of time period there. So obviously at the time maybe you couldn't have. You can answer it now in what your thought process was at the time, in the sense that do you think it would have been better if you just walked away at that stage, or still try and make a go of it? Was that just a mistake to think that I'll make a go of it? Basically, how would you answer that? What would you say to your 24-year-old self now? Should you have stayed and tried it, or should you have cut your losses and not bond with that child and move on? Do you see what I'm saying?
No, if I had a time machine, I would say, listen, 3 words: avoid Shaun Buchanan. That's what I'd do.
Say what? Say again?
I would say 3 words: avoid Shaun Buchanan. If I had to spoke to my 24-year-old self. Yeah, that's the other thing. By the time she had the child, I was never gonna. Once she made the decision and said, "Oh, we're gonna keep it,"
It was done.
I was never gonna walk away because obviously I didn't want to be one of them, as in my community say, a waste man. Dad. I didn't be one of those that said, "Oh, you've got children out there. You talk all this and then you don't practice what you preach." So that was the principle I was trying to operate under.
No, fair enough.
And then when I found out it was a son as well, so I said, "Oh, you know what? I can have a male version of me, and then I can have the influence." That's why I stuck around as well, because if I have influence, I might be able to guide them away from the corruption she was living in.
Yeah. Okay, so how many years were you in this then?
Only 18 months, but it felt like 18 years because obviously the shenanigans, the corruption in our family, the sexual corruption, the molestation. Yes, I said, my goodness. So this is not the kind of people I want to mix up seed with, because it's damaging. And said it seems to be a generational thing that no one's breaking the pattern or the chain.
Trauma,
yeah, so I said, you know what?
Trauma,
so she thought I was looking down my toffee nose at her, and I said, I am. I said, look, I've told you what I stand for. You wanted to deal with me because I'm the way I am. So
you stand for something,
exactly. So that's why you wanted to sit down with me. So what's the problem? So once I saw she was never gonna, she'd only change on the surface and do things to appease me when I was upset.
Playing the game. You kick off, you behave for 2-3 weeks. Guess what? 6 weeks later, you find yourself back in the same situation.
Exactly.
This changing, and I thought we sorted this. Bro, it's a pattern, bro. Personality disorder, generational trauma. That's how you play that. All right, Shaun, we're gonna go to a quick break. I'm gonna close that window as well because I don't want that noise disturbing this. We're getting into this, so we'll be back in a short break. Right, we're back. Shaun, carry on where we left off. So you're in this relationship now. You try to live by your principles. You didn't want to be another statistic, another father that's not around for their kids. You didn't want your son to become another statistic as well and follow that generational pattern. You wanted to be there, break the mold. You stuck around, and then you notice obviously that that woman at the time was carrying a lot of generational trauma, a lot of abuse, historic abuse in the family, and you're not just fighting her, you're fighting these generations and cycles of abuse. So you forget trying to break the cycle of your own statistics that you're trying to break and not become a waste man. That you're fighting her, all her trauma and all her pre-programming of her trauma in her upbringing. And obviously, from what I understand, what you're saying is that is too much. It's too much of a battle to fight. You weren't going to change it. Hence, then you decided after 18 months best decision was to get yourself out of that situation, yeah?
Yeah, of course.
So definitely. What happened? What happened from there? Tell us.
To be fair, from there it was we'd have our arguments every now and then. Not often, because obviously we didn't live together by then. And
So you were separated, yeah?
yeah, separated. But I still had regular contact with him for the next 9 years.
Okay,
I
that's
started off
pretty good, man.
a couple. To be fair, some of it was because of her negligence. She now found herself with 3 children, 3 different men. She couldn't cope. Which there's a lot of mothers out there under the quiet that, as you know, use the benefit system to try and shield themselves from having to work and do a normal working life. So she would willingly. I never had to really fight for him.
Okay, so
like
by
that first.
default, and the pressure she was under with 3 kids, you got lucky, really.
Different households.
Yeah, so you got lucky, really, in the sense that you had contact for 9 years. So yours is I suppose, yeah, you're one of the lucky ones. Yeah, so carry on. So how was those 9 years? Tell us about that.
So to be fair, I'd take him as much as possible the first 3 years of his life.
But did you have like just an informal arrangement?
Informal, yeah, nothing cool. I didn't have to go court until he was 10.
Okay, so you had a good run.
I had a good run. So I thought by that time I'd put enough foundational sense of knowledge and bond into it, where it would eliminate the chance of him being alienated. Well, not eliminate, but reduce the chance of him being alienated from me. So what I noticed though, he didn't like, as he got older, he didn't like the discipline. When I said, nothing. It's light touch. I said, look, you got to do schoolwork. No computer. You have to, when you come here, son, we have a time to play, then we got time to do your maths.
So the word is, he didn't like structure, Okay.
So I noticed that, but to be fair, he still used to, when I used to go and collect him, he'd run to me and say, Daddy, what we're going to do? Until he was about, I say 6, 7. Then I noticed there's a change. When I used to go, he used to be, sometimes glum or said, do you want to come? But before then, it was fine. There's times when I had to take him to university with me because she used to go abscond to Jamaica to go and see a fancy man. So I didn't be so minded because I said, look, son, you see how you with me? And your dad takes you no matter what. Even there's times when I had to give up like my little private work, or I'd have to book out my Synovate market research shifts and say, I can't come in today because I've got my son. Short notice, because she would say, I can't go over there doing my head in. So I would take him as much as possible. So you might as well say between 0 and 3, I had him most of the time. I'd have him 3 days a week. 3 days a week. So I'd have him Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Man,
and then I'd used to go door work. I used to go and do security work at Clapham Grandin Junction. And I'd come home on a Sunday to my parents' place when I used to go and visit them and find him there. So I said, how long has he been here? Oh, he's been here from Friday evening. So I said, wait a minute, if I'm having him Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I'm doing night work, and I'll give him back to her, and then she's dropping him in. So that was like basically like that for the first 3 years of his life. So I thought maybe he'd adapt my family ways, see that over his mother's. But once he got to about 4 or 5, I said, you know what, son, you why about thinking about coming to live with Dad when I used to have him? And he said, you know what, wait till I make Dad, wait till my mate. So I already knew he wanted to stay with his mother. But I thought, as he sees the neglect and the funniness about wanting to farm him out and not really sit down with him, I thought he'd see that. Even until he was 9, she didn't spend a full Christmas with him. Christmas Day, she'd open presents, and then I'd have him for the 2 weeks for a whole holiday, school holiday. And it was like that until he was 10. So I thought he'd see these things and naturally say, you know what, I want to gravitate to that. But
you've had a good bond with him. Okay, so up till 10, you had good contact. You had a good
very
bond.
Very good contact.
Yes, you weren't a pushover dad or the weekend dad where you can't afford to upset them because you know what I mean. You only got 2 days. If you go 2 days every 2 weeks, most dads fall into the trap of you don't really want to be giving them a bollocking or disciplining him or upsetting him because look, you ain't gonna see him for another 2 weeks and that's the last thing. So people overcompensate. Dads overcompensate.
To be fair, I warn against that though, because what happened is I had obviously other friends that went through a similar situation, and I used to tell them, look, if you do that, even though it kind of affects you as your personal relationship, but I said you're doing them a disservice. So when they're older, they haven't got the necessary skills or emotional resilience to deal with life. So I said, if you do that, I said, what happened? They become a ticks in your skin. Then they'd only want, where's my trainers, Dad? Oh, are we going out anyway this weekend?
You're encouraging that behavior.
Yeah, so you got to kind of find the balance. Man. Yeah. You got to find the balance. Because what I done, because as much as I think, I had to take him out cinema, go park, play with him, play fight. We see me playing here. I used to put the bed covers over. I said, spaceships on, all that kind of stuff. He talks about that. So I said, son, you remember all these things, but then you don't want to live with me. It doesn't make any sense when you tell me about how your mum's going out too much, because he used to tell me a lot of these stuff, even about the molester I told you about. It's him that told me that he had contact with him, went London Dungeons with him. He told me. I didn't find out from anyone else. He told me.
So
That's what made me go down the court route.
okay, we'll go to that in a minute. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Let's try and dissect. We'll go to that in a minute. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so just explain to me, because look, you had good contact. Yeah, I'm just curious to know myself now. Yeah, just so people understand the dynamics in all of these things and how complicated they are. You had good contact, not just good contact. You had him like sometimes 3 days a week here, 2 days at your mum's. Yeah, for up to the age of 10, right? Yeah, you had good contact, but he still didn't want to live with you. Okay, fine. You could have carried on as it was, and you could have had good contact. But why do you think he's, even though, and okay, add to the fact the dynamics, like you said, there was neglect on that side. Mum didn't spend too much. He craved mum's attention potentially. You know how kids are, yeah. So let's go to the kids. Let's try and go to his psyche, yeah. He's craving attention from mum, yeah. Mum's okay, got her own problems by the sounds of she's fighting her own demons. Yeah, let's put it politely and respectfully. She's fighting her own demons, right? He comes here, he gets the structure, the discipline, the fun. Dad's there, like you said. You're not the statistical waste man. Dad not around. You were different from, say, the mold. You're there. You're making an effort. You're fighting for your kid. Yeah. What went wrong then? Tell me this. Why did he not want to stay? Why do you think he didn't want to stay with you? Just out of curiosity.
No, to be fair, I'm not someone that ducks these questions. So what I used to do is I used to ask him, said, son, what's the matter? Why don't you want to live here? He couldn't articulate at the time. This is when I first started to have these conversations, like when he's 7, 8. So he said, when I notice when I go to school, sometimes he's moping about coming here, or like, I don't want to go and things like that. Then a couple of times when his mum was okay with me, she says it's boring at yours. When I said, well, I'm there, that's his biggest gripe. She said, yeah, that's a mockery. So I said, come, let's go, son. Then he started to say, he makes me do my homework. Which I said, son, you're struggling at school. Because I found out I got him an what they call the educational healthcare plan. Next best thing to private school, where I got them to screen him because they didn't want to spend the money on him because he started to be unruly in the classes. So I just went down that route. Said, son, you've got to behave. When you go there, you're acting up. They said, what they'll do, they said, you know what, you don't want to learn. So they'll marginalize you in class. And you've already got dyslexia. And they said, I had to go to a tribunal for you to get the educational healthcare plan. So not your mother, me.
But for you, as a kid, though, okay, so let's go. Look, I'm going to put myself in that mindset. 7, 8 year old, yeah? He loves dad, he's playing games, he's having fun. But guess what? Dad's also making him work. I don't want to work. What the hell, man? Why don't you focus and study as a kid? That's what I mess about. You know what I'm saying? So as much as I like going to dad's, as a kid, though, he might appreciate that maybe if he's 18, 19, 20 and dad's trying to get him into university or something, and he has a different view on life. As a kid, he's thinking, well, at least at home I don't have to work, bro. I'm chilling there. Do you know what I mean? Computer games all day, no questions asked. So he's gonna maybe naturally rebel against that a little bit. Do you think?
Yeah, you say all that because I've got a niece that's only 11 months younger than him. She's like the daughter I never had. She just came around last week.
But girls have a higher concentration. Girls have a higher span of that's what girls do better in school. Girls have a higher concentration. Like, for example, I look at my daughters, yeah, and I had 2 daughters first, and I've got a son, yeah. My son's only 4 years old. He just started his nursery, bro, reception now, yeah. The other day, another day that he's missed out on and I've missed out on. I just want to put out there, just put a message for my son quickly. It's another day we've both missed out on, son, but look, don't worry, I'm here. I'm doing all of this for you and all the other kids who are missing out on these important days of their life with one of their parents. And I love you and I do miss you, but hang in there and just do your best, son. Sorry, Shaun, carry on. So, yeah, so I had 2 daughters, yeah. For example, yeah, just for those who ain't got kids, yeah. I thought you used to play with them, stuff like that. Their concentration span, we used to do little stuff together, and they had the time to do it. Until I had a boy, yeah. I noticed a difference. I thought, bloody, I've had an easy ride. Like with 2 girls, though I thought it was hard, I realized it was easy because with the boy, concentration, he wants to grab the hammer, he wants to smash things up, bro. 30 seconds later, he's bored again, he wants to do something else. You play with this. Girls, you could sit there, do a puzzle, something that requires brain power. Do you know what I'm saying? That's
you say all that, but when I was growing up, I wasn't like that. I used to like reading.
No, but we got to go with the general rule. So generally, this is the pattern with boys, and we've seen it in education.
Yeah,
girls
seen education.
Do better in school because they have a longer attention span. Do you know what I'm saying?
To be fair, though, they also get more support because obviously primary school, as I've showed you before when we read our private conversation, 80% of the staff is female, so they've got that natural internal bias. No matter how they try to dress it up, it's a serious unconscious bias because you got to realize before they had that staffing issue where they had mostly women in primary schools. like pre-1970s,
Yeah,
boys done better at school. So that was all part of the
Okay.
feminist agenda when they said, oh, you know what, women are suffering because boys are usually perform better in examinations.
Right.
Yeah, so
Okay.
so what they done, they reduced the examinations time and made it more assessments.
All right, we're going to
So
talk about. Listen, I didn't realize this.
yeah,
I
there's
never
a lot
realized
of
this.
it,
All
there's
right.
a lot of underlying
Yeah,
things
yeah.
with that.
We're going to go into that. Carry on with this now. We'll jump onto. We'll go back to that. We'll touch on this later, definitely, because I didn't know this. That's this new one for me. So carry on from there. So look, he didn't want to come with you because he had to work when you're at dad's. So you got to graft basically a little bit as well. And you think that was the main reason that he pulled away from being with you full time. So what happened after? And this went on till the age of 10, yeah. So what happened after that? Give us a little.
But when he told me about having a trip out to London dungeons with his mother and his auntie, her half sister,
Right.
and he said he was engaging with a fella that had known for molestation. He served 8 years prison for molestation, underage boys.
And she was with.
They went out on a day trip because her half sister was the mother of his child.
Right. Okay.
I even used to DJ for me when we were younger. So I heard rumors about it, but then all of a sudden I heard he got locked up for it. So when he came, I didn't realize he'd come out. So one day my son came here and said, "Oh, I saw this fella today, Dad." I said, "Hmm?" He said, "What's that?" I didn't tell him what he was or who he was. So I said, "Is that right?" So as soon as he told me that, I went to child services. But by that time, I'd found out I had a pituitary gland brain tumor. So obviously I was dealing with a lot of stress that myself at that time. So people said, "Oh, just focus on that and don't bother with it." But I said, "No, I can't have that. It's either I go in there and tear people's heads off or kick in and don't take him, or I go down the route, because obviously as a man they say, oh boy, misogynist, abusing the partner."
Yeah.
So I went down the thing. I said, let me try and not do the thing.
Route,
Yeah.
So just to clarify, you went to social services,
I went to child services straight away. Referral to child services straight away.
Right, to say, listen, my boy's exposed to a guy who's convicted of X, Y, and Z. He's
served 8 years
he served 8
custodial for
years. What's going on here? What did they do? Tell us about this, because a lot of people don't know how competent or incompetent social services are. Yeah,
disaster,
tell us about that.
a walking disaster, disgrace. Especially Croydon Local Authority, where I referred them to, where they were living. So they would do their Section 7 report. They sent around a caseworker.
Okay, just so I understand. So look, we're going to get to the mechanics. You made a referral to social services stating my son is sharing an environment with a guy who's been convicted, right? What is the process, so people know? So we're going to let people know what the process is. So you made a referral via phone call to social services, yeah? What did they do? What happened?
Email. I sent. I went to local authority Croydon site, typed in my version of events into their system, and that triggers off safeguarding.
Right. So this is what I'm saying. That triggers off a safeguarding alert on their system. Then what do they do, and what they're meant to do, and what happened?
Well, they're supposed to send out case service workers to interview the person that's made a referral about him.
Okay, to you. So that means you, yeah? Okay.
So what happened though? They didn't follow procedure. So what they done? They went and contacted his mother first,
right?
And then my mother for some odd reason. Now, this made me question the caseworker that was on dealing with the matter. What I found is she turned around and told me 6 weeks after she'd done her initial investigation, decided to meet with me. So I said, why is it taking that long when I'm the one that made the referral? But that's when I started to see the Miss Andrew. Female caseworker.
Oh,
and when I looked into her, she was also a single mother as well.
Yeah.
So as soon as my son said, you know what, I don't want to live with Dad, and I'd rather just visit him instead of staying overnight anymore. So I said, why would that be, son? Because I went to school by this time. I said, what's this, son, that you put in the report? He didn't want to answer me. So I started to have difficulty getting his reports from school now. So I then invoked to say, look, I haven't got any restraining order against me. I have no history of domestic abuse. So how can you think? So only when I threatened that did they say, all right, we'll give you the records and see how it's getting on. But then that same caseworker from Croydon Local Authority turned around and said it's inappropriate for me to go to school and circumvent the mother.
Yeah, there seems to be same old pattern. There seems to be a hesitation to tackle the mother or upset mum, because the agenda is not the kids. We know no one gives a shit about the father, yeah? Accepted, fine, yeah? No one, I get it, fine, yeah? But come on, man, the kids, there's surely the social workers. I understand the family court, social service, all of it is geared to look after mum, period. With the kids, though, surely there should be some priority with a case like this for the kids.
Well, they'll tell you that
That's what they say.
according to their policies, it's all about the welfare of the child. But that is just a ruse. It's a ruse. It's there in the letter of the law, but no one implements it. No one
Yeah.
interprets it, unless it's something like a Lucy Letby situation or a Star Hobson, where the mother's strung out on like a class A drugs. They can't even bathe themselves. I feel like unless it's a care in the community thing, that extreme. That's the only way where they will attempt to look lively about. And then even some of those cases, they try to work with them to see if they can get them up to speed with their parenting. Because the whole thing with government is that they want us to still be the breadwinner.
They want
still got to. They don't want too much.
Mom, they pandered to this idea that kids are still better off with mom, and this is what the whole family court, like I said, the hesitation in the family court, social services, to say she is a bad parent. Like you said, only in extreme cases it seems to go the other way, and unfortunately, in some cases, it was too late. So you know that geezer whose mum and stepfather killed a little boy. How many cases have we heard in the last year that's come on news and all of that?
In my dossier, I've got about 15 of them.
15 cases, but my point is, it's too late. So when they say, oh, mum and stepfather, that kid's still dead, isn't it? Because of this ideology.
And there's not really much care there. It's all these inquiries is all to placate the people, so there's not no protesting and a rebellion against the system. That's the only reason why they go through the motions. I've watched them. When that caseworker came with my eldest son, I said, look, I've got a dossier going back to 2006 when he was first born about the mum's shenanigans. Okay. So she was going like, why would you keep these records? Like I was aware though. Yeah. So why you said I have to, because I've seen the problems when his hair sees and
if you didn't have it. Yeah, but have you got any evidence?
The evidence, exactly. The hypocrisy.
You can't win, man. This is what I'm saying. But okay, let's go back to this, just so we understand it fully. Look, you made the referral call. You made the referral to social services. What should happen is someone should get in contact with the person that made the complaint and have an interview with them first, yeah? Then what is meant to happen? Tell us what is meant to happen. Then do they go speak to the mother after that? And then the child, I presume, yeah? And then they make an evaluation of the safeguarding based on those interviews, yeah? But in your case, you're saying, instead of getting hold of mum, instead of getting hold of you first, they went and got hold of mum first.
And then my mother.
And then they got hold of the grandma, the child's grandma being your mother, out of the blue. And then they got hold of you 6 weeks later.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and by that time, what had happened then? Tell us how it played out. How did the situation play out then? Give it in detail so people understand.
Well, when she came to visit me, she said, why should not visit me? I had to go into Croydon Local Authority into her office, and she done an interview and said, oh, what's the history like? Family history on both sides. Are you known for domestic abuse? Ever convicted of any criminal offences? You know, the basic safeguarding background checks. Yeah, cool. So I said, look, his mother is known to child services because she was molested.
Right, she was.
I said, yeah. They said she's got an eldest son that went to Feltham. He's known to child services. He actually had to spend a time with his father. So I said, if the eldest son can be taken to his father for a spell, which he hid from me for years. I only found out from the off chance of one of her family members told me.
So again, he was what happened with his father? I don't understand.
Her eldest son,
by
this time, what was he? Like 12, 13. He spent 7 months living with his dad.
He lived with his dad for 7 months?
7 months. So I said, surely you can see there's a pattern there. And he's been to Feltham Institute for narcotics. Yeah. So I said, if that's the case, surely you can see if there's nothing like that on my background.
So why
none of me and my siblings went to prison at the time.
So basically, your record's clean compared to her social services. You can see that, yeah.
But because she's got no personal convictions, I noticed, because even though she was dabbling and doing certain things, because there's no, her record's squeaky clean.
Okay,
on the surface, it looked thing. But I said, look, you just have to look at the eldest is known to been to Feltham. He's known to child services. She's got a half brother that's the same age as her middle son, known to child services. He went to actually stay with his dad for a good number of years.
Right.
And then I said, I'm asking for, because she said, what do you want? I said, I want full residency. And she needs to be marginalised and have supervised contact with him. And she was saying, why would I do that when he said the son wants to stay there? I said, because he's a young boy who doesn't know what's best for him. Yeah. He doesn't know what's best for him. He said, what world are we living in when someone can serve 8 years, even though you say, well, she tried to say he wasn't molested, was he? I said, obviously there was no, but he would have told me. So I don't believe he's been molested. But I said, for the fact that I asked her about it and she didn't tell me that's what went on. She tried to hide it from me. Why? So what would you trust? Someone that tried to hide it from me, knowing that I'm the dad?
Okay, let me. I'm trying
And
to.
then she tried to coerce my son into saying withdraw it, but by that time I recorded him. So when she tried to say, he tried to get him to say, oh, he didn't meet this fella.
Yeah.
Because she said, oh, your dad's trying to take you away from me. I went and showed the recording to
Okay.
the Healthcare Practitioners Council and the Croydon Complaints Department.
Let me ask you a question, look, just so I understand. I'm trying to get balance to all of this, yeah? So social services are arguing that, look, she's not a bad mum. The child's basically, look, the child is safe in the sense that no danger or harm has come to him, yeah? Yes, you could argue her parenting style is not, how can I put it? It's not as structured or as good as, say, yours, but they're saying, look, she's just juggling 3 kids. Then they're going to say, well, technically, she's not got convictions of wrong. She's technically a victim herself. She's carrying trauma. She needs help. So the argument is, you could argue, like, for example, someone could sit here and argue and say, yeah, but Shaun, she's clearly someone who needs help herself. So then when you come with, because of her circumstances and situation and her trauma and her being a victim in her life, you now want to take full residency of this child, which is just going to cause her more trauma. And if the kid's not in any, like, so social services, I said to you, the child's not in any direct danger, hence, and he don't want to come with you anyway. So there's nothing we can do. Regardless of the fact that your record is clean, your home is structured, your lifestyle is structured, no history of any all this prison and no one around the kid being in prison, nothing like that, yeah? Even then, there's not reason enough to say we're giving you full residency, basically.
Yeah, that's what this caseworker said. But obviously, what I done went and researched and went into it and said, listen, I can show you off the jump case law 5 cases where the father's got residency of the child, whether the child wants to live with them or not, especially when they're safeguarding issues. So obviously she didn't like the fact that I looked into these things.
Well,
I said, yeah, the caseworker didn't like that. So, and also I recorded her as well. When she tried to change the dates on the Section 7 report, saying that the time that I said he had contact, he was still in prison. So I said, if you put that in the Section 7 report in court, I said, I'm going to contradict you and I'm going to cross-examine you. I'm going to expose you for being a liar. So when she said, why would you do that? You recorded me without my consent. I said, because I heard the horror stories about child services.
Yes,
you are a liar. Yeah. You are a liar. And I said, I can see already you're a misandrist and you're trying to concoct the report to make sure the judge rules it in the favor of the mother. So I said, I'm gonna take you to task for this. I'm gonna hound you for the rest of your career with this. I'm not putting up with it. So that left me at a disadvantage, I guess, because what happened, she didn't come back to court when she submitted the sections of the report. And when I tried to get the judge to force her, because that's their right, any kind of public service worker, they can get them to come to court. Supposed like criminal law. Like,
slow it down. So hold on. Sorry. Firstly, also, just again, highlight this point again. Any interaction with social services, child services, CAFCAS, all of them, make sure this is from the streets. Officially, people will give you all this crap about GDPR or whatever. Listen, record the conversation. Record every interaction with these people. Keep records. Get organized. So carry on. You challenge her straight to her face and say, listen, when she said this argument to you that I presented about, oh, she's not a bad mum, this, that, blah, 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 blah. You then said, well, actually, look, in these 5 other cases, these children, the father was given residency in these cases, and you presented this to her, and she responded, just so I understand fully, by saying, why, if she didn't like the fact that you done your homework, you done the research, you learned about child law, and you fired shots back at her, yeah? So that got her back up even more. So what was the process after that? So that meeting, say, is finished. What happens then? Did you go to court?
No, the school was still 2 months away. So what happened there?
Okay, that court date, what was it? Your first hearing? Was it a family court? Give us the details.
Yeah, it was a family court. His first hearing is like where they make the first summation.
So did you? All right, just on you submitted the C100 application, child access application, yeah,
and C1 as well.
C100 and social service were already involved, obviously, and that reports would have come into your case, yeah. Carry on from there. So 2 months later, you go to court, yeah, for your first hearing.
Well, before the court, she came to see me again to see how he's getting on, to see if he's safe. Because what they do then, as part of the reporting, is that they go and check on how she's doing day to day schooling, how he's getting on with school. What she did, she went to his school and she tried to say they wrote a favourable report saying that he's a happy-go-lucky child. He seems to be settling in well. So instantly that flagged up to me and said, "You're lying. Again, you're lying." So I said,
"This is a social worker."
Yeah, cool. So I said, I've been collecting his school reports since he was from for when it started reception.
So you
Said
had
he
a
said, "What are
record.
you talking about?" Said, "How can you write?" Said, "That's not even ambiguous. Where you could say it's he said, she said." I've
You
got
got
written proof
facts.
of from his school teacher. So I said, "Did you even go to the school?" So I went to the school now.
Yeah.
At the time, this is nautical school in Waterloo. Went there, said, "Look, my son's traveling all the way from Croydon to come here, and you're saying that he's punctual at the time." I said, "Of course not, Mr. Kelly. You know that's not the case." I said, "This is the information that we got on him." They said the child service worker didn't ever attend the school. She rang up to see if he attended there.
So she
She
fabricated the report.
fabricated it. There's no way to dress it up. She fabricated. Nicola Kell fabricated it.
Social services fabricated this school report to go against, ultimately to go against what father's application basically, yeah. But look, the lesson here is this, yeah, to all fathers out there: make sure you don't leave the kids' school reports or their documentation. Make sure you have, even if you're in the family unit and you're happy, make sure you have copies and files of all your children's school reports. You're involved, you know what's going on, because a lot of guys think, "Oh, Mrs. dealing with that. I'm hustling, I'm grinding, I'm working, I'm providing. That's my job. This is my unit." And then things go wrong, bro. They ain't got a clue. They know nothing about the school report. They can't answer on these things because they were busy providing. So,
no, but this is where we have to pay more attention, though, because obviously, even though to be fair, in the end, it didn't help me with my son, but as a basis to give yourself a better chance, you have to do that. When I grew up with my friends when we were teenagers, early 20s, I said, "Listen, this is what we got to do." We've seen how our uncles and our dads, not so much the grandparents, because in my grandparents' day, they seem to stay together often, thick or thin.
It's a community issue.
Yeah, so I said we need to think, but I notice not everyone has that care of duty or love in their heart. Some people, like I would love Chelsea more than another fan that would just maybe watch a match of the day and read the tabloids. You get that level of dads, to be fair. That's why these things happen. They think, I'm the breadwinner, I make money. I provide that, that's enough. And then as long as they know I'm my dad, they get the identity from me. And I might drop in tidbits of wisdom how to get on and work in life. But the day-to-day emotion availability is not there from us.
So you need to be
you have to be
present,
and you have to be See, I used to take time off or even deliberately not going to work certain times so I could go to parents' evenings, so I could go to child plays, where obviously his mother liked that at first, but then when she started to say, "Oh, you're trying to usurp me," she started to think like that. I said, "Then why would you said you want a dad that's involved and it's serious, but then at the end of the day you don't like it."
Control.
See, so this is where there's a lot of coercive control with women.
Okay, look, the thing is this, Shaun. Yeah, I'm guilty. Yeah, straight. Yeah, but the problem is, when you're in the relationship and we're talking about coercive control when you're dealing with personality disorders, bro. You get played into this sometimes. Like, for example, I wanted to drop at times, sorry, not me. I'm talking about a case. When I talk about me, just clarify. I'm talking about a client I was representing. Classic situation, yeah? And I've said this many times, I'll say this again, and how this happens, yeah? Man comes from night shift, yeah? Kids are like, Dad, drop us to school. Kids have fun with their dad, dad's fun. It's like, yeah, all right, kids, I'll drop you. But some women, bro, they're clever. Asian community as well. Women ain't aggressively. So like, for example, Asian women, Indian, because for my community, basically, they don't tackle you directly. They've clocked how to deal with these men. Yeah, they're not aggressive. They don't get your back up. It's, "Oh, babe, you look really tired. You sure you don't get a couple of hours sleep now?" And you're like, "Yeah, you're right. Oh, your eyes look really red." And some silly fathers, unfortunately. "Yeah, you're right. Maybe I am a bit tired." After night shift, you're groggy. You're fine. Don't get me wrong. My man goes sleep, innit? He's missed the school run. Guess what? When he wakes up, he's got a fry up there ready, bro. Fry up there, ready to eat, watching Jeremy Kyle, all good, thinking it's a great morning.
Yeah.
I pick the kids up. "Nah, babe, you chill out. I'll make you a cup of tea. I just made you a cup of tea and some garlic bread. Just chill out. You watch TV. I'll pick them up." And eventually, after this consistent, you think, "Oh, why can't I pick the kids up? Like, what's going on?" But the environment is controlled, and this is what This is what I've
subliminally,
yeah. And this is
playing to your ego, like, "Oh, you're the king. I look after you."
Play the game. You got to understand. Look, borderline personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder. Yeah. And my point is, they know how to play these games, and this is real coercive control. I made many videos on this, and I'll touch on this again, and to make people understand. And a lot of guys think, well, she's not a bad person. You've done it, bro. It's clever. You know what I'm saying? That's how it's done in the Asian community. That's how this control is enforced in my community. Yeah, and then this also applies to Listen, I'm popping out to my mum's, yeah. So let's say there's geezer, one geezer, loads of cases like this, yeah. He's just popping out to his mum. Listen, let me take the little one with me. See my mum for a couple of hours. I'm just popping in, yeah. I was just about to do their shower time. And you go, we'll take them next time. You go next time. They're just about to start their homework. Shower time, bedtime, homework time. Every time you want to be alone with the child, take them to your family members, stuff like that.
You see how it's but you see, I was always aware of that, and because obviously I wanted to follow my life pattern and the family pattern, even though.
No, but it's a fight. Look, okay. Look, the problem is this. Okay, look, you know where a lot of fathers find themselves in this situation now, Shaun, yeah, where they're just normal, decent guys, yeah. They're not overly aggressive. They're not the macho sort. They're not them sort. They're just nice guys, yeah. And they find themselves in a situation where, let's say they didn't clock it initially, but after 6, 8 months, year, 2 years of this, you know there's something wrong here. You're the environment with you and your child's being controlled, yeah. But this woman, that's what I'm trying to say to you, bro. When the world sees her as this lovely girl that does the pickups, does the drop-offs, yeah. The world sees her as that, yeah. And you're never around. And to everyone, when she goes to school, they're like, why didn't your husband? He's never around. You know, like to the outside world, you're a monster.
That's why I'd already thought of that before I had children, because I've seen the pattern with it with my parents, my grandparents, and even, you know, the interaction with the school when it says, why are you can't change these schools without the mother consent. And then I found out, I said, you can't do that because I'm not in receipt of the child benefit. So I said, so that's how you divide who the resident custody parent is, by the child benefit, without any legality.
Just like the child tax credit.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're earning over 50 grand as a man, and your missus is claiming the child tax credits, you earn over 50, you're paying that back regardless. You ain't getting, bro. She's in control of that. Even if you split up, that's the thing. Shaun, there's a lot more to go into. Let's go to a quick break and we'll jump back into this. Right, welcome back. Shaun, let's carry on from where we left off. The court application, social services and the school, and let's carry on from that process. So you had social services, they blagged this report that the kids are doing great in school. You went in and said, guess what, I've got all these reports going back all these years. We touched on the fact that advising fathers, make sure you get involved, you take part, you know these things, go to the parents, an active role in their school life and all of aspects of their life. We're talking about that. So carry on from there now. Social services blagged this report before you attended your first court hearing. Let's talk about that. What happened from there?
So what I done next is I tried to get an addendum. This is where they make a change to the Section 7 report when there's inaccuracies in terms of the facts.
So how do you go about doing that, just so the people know out there? So you got this report, you're not happy with it, you know there's lies on there, you think they've blagged it, you applied for what you call it, an
addendum.
That's the official term, yeah? Sorry, say again.
Addendum.
So you apply for one of them, and you apply that to who? The
local authority, like the service manager for the caseworkers department.
Right. Okay.
So if there's dispute thing, they said before it goes to the legal team, they can make changes. Once they go to legal, it's rubber stamped. Right. You can never change it unless the court judge says yes, we allow you to have another one. So I went to that before it went to legal. All she done was removed my other address. You know, the other flat that I told you I live at. She just removed that other address so not to expose my current partner. And she left everything else the same. And then she absconded. When I asked her to be brought back in a future hearings, the first one, she was on leave, conveniently.
So they never made this change? So you knew
all they changed was the address, because I said, listen, I made a list of things. I said, I want the molester date changed, that way he was out of prison. Because I said, you're trying to conveniently, tactically say that I'm basically lying or inaccurate to what I'm saying, which is a lie. I showed you that proof and I recorded it. 2, I said, when the contact with the child molesters at London Bridge, you tried to refute that, and that, hey, he's no threat and he has not had no contact because he's been supervised by an organisation called Jigsaw. When you go on the sex offender list, they're supposed to watch you tacitly about your movements.
Yeah.
So I said, that's not true, because then how would he be able to go out with my son? So that's rubbish. Your safeguarding is obviously
it's not
working. And they tried to blame his budget cuts. I said, no, I don't want to hear that, because this is very clear. Anyone on the sex offender list, he's supposed to have supervised access with his own daughter, let alone be going to day trips with
someone else's kid. Yeah,
exactly. So I said, that's got to change. I said, the fact that you didn't go to my son's school, they told me you didn't attend. I've got it right here. I spoke to the head teacher. Said you didn't attend. You phoned in.
And just so you know that conversation you had with the head teacher, did you record that as well?
No, I just had it written down.
Okay,
A document, not all the recording. I had it written down, the record document.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I wrote it down, time, dates, thing. So I
You had
said,
a
look,
log,
you
yeah, you
think
had a
log.
log.
So when I showed him that, I said also, I said, you're saying that he's healthy and happy. He said he's currently obese. He has dyslexia. You would know that if you looked at his report.
Aye.
And he's struggling academically.
Aye.
He's due to fail every time. I said he's got the reading age of an 8-year-old. Yeah, when he was 10.
Yeah.
So I said, come on. You said you've seen all these kind of things, and you're not putting them in the report. So why is that? That tells me you're deliberately trying to coerce and
Manipulate
besmirch
the case.
me and make sure that it goes favorably when it goes to, because obviously the court will look at what I said as a dad in a culturally biased society. Then he'll see your Section 7 report saying that you represent the state and you've analysed it impartially, which you haven't done. You're biased and you're a liar on top of it. And then I've got a judge that wants the easy way out, so he doesn't have to fill out any paperwork for change of residency. So I said that may be a foregone conclusion, but I want you to put the truth in the documents to give myself the best chance of getting residency.
Okay, what did they do then? Go on.
They adjourned and said, look, we'll have another hearing in the April.
No, sorry, but this is what you said to social services before.
Before.
They didn't do anything other than just change the address and still submit it. And there's nothing you could do about it at that stage then.
Because he's rubber stamped by legal.
So then he went to court.
But when I went to court, I asked for that, and then that, to be fair, a court judge can order that. But I said, that will take time. We're going to do it.
Sorry, so just so the viewers understand, slow down. So you went to your first hearing, yeah? On your first hearing, you told the judge everything you just said about, no, this is what I asked for, and these things are not in the report. I'm not having it. Bang, you fired shots at the judge about this. So people know what they can do out there, yeah? So at the first hearing, don't just accept this. If you find yourself in this situation, don't just accept it. On the first hearing, make some noise respectfully, highlight the situation, and the judge can order what did he do? What can you order? Tell me.
At that end,
so the judge can then say, right, listen, go back and address this man's the points that this man has highlighted and adjust the report because you presented evidence. Right. So first hearing, you go in, they didn't listen to you, so you go in with the evidence, present the evidence, and request that ad addendum again, and then the judge will say to CAFCAS, social services, go back, readjust this because he's presented evidence and this report doesn't reflect the evidence presented. Yeah, that's what you got to do. Carry on from there then.
So what happened then? The court case was adjourned to the April in the following year. But the caseworker at the time knew what the date was. Conveniently, she was annual leave by the time of the next day. So I said, how is that possible? Why would she take annual leave at that time, knowing there's a court date there?
Can you make a complaint against her?
Yeah, I did. I made a complaint.
You made the complaint.
But what happens, while the case is live, they won't let you make a complaint against the child because they think it's basically sour grapes. You have to.
Yeah.
So they won't allow that.
So you can't complain against her. If she's involved in a running case, you wait till the case is finished, then you can make a complaint.
To be fair, I can submit this kind of stuff to you via email. And then you can show it, maybe show.
We'll have to do something. We'll have to show people how to do it, yeah, because we need to put the mechanics and the knowledge out there. So when you're telling us these things, just go slowly, step by step, all the technical terms, so people know what they got to do and what they can and cannot put up with. Do you see what I'm saying? But so carry on. So she went on annual leave at the next hearing, which was a year later. And in the meantime, what happened? So because it was a running case, you couldn't put a complaint in.
Couldn't put a complaint.
So she was okay for a year.
She's okay for as long as the case was live.
Yeah.
So.
Because you said to come back next year, you got the years.
They thought the local authority would change it, and then but by that time, when she had the annual leave, they adjourned it again to the July. By this time, I didn't even realize she left Croydon local authority. She was no longer employed by them. So I believe that they managed her out the process, and you don't go elsewhere because we don't want to see. He comes in court and he shows this proof. It just undermines us. So by the time the July hearing came around and asked for, they said, "Oh look, there's been an administration error." I said, "How has there been an administration error when the court clerk sent out the request to Croydon local authority?" I said, "I've got a copy of it here, Judge," because he was trying to worm his way out. This magistrate, he's trying to worm his way out of it. So I said, "Don't tell me that about admin error because I have a printout of the email sent by the court clerk telling the local authority that she would have to come in July." And his thing was, "Oh, these things happen all the time. It's miscommunication." You see?
Yeah.
So it was like a perfect storm.
Yeah.
Family betrayal, lying son, deceitful caseworker, judge corroborating it. and apathy about doing anything about it, saying, "Oh well, it's just one of those things. Your son doesn't want to live with you, so that's that."
And that is pretty much what fathers are up against. You're fighting monsters,
Despite
bro.
the fact that I showed them case law of when the dads had got residency, despite him saying he doesn't want to live there, once they saw that the mother wasn't appropriate, I said the 5 basic needs that social service is supposed to analyze when it comes to raising children is shelter, education, emotional needs, clothing, yeah, safeguarding from danger, yeah, from like benign neglect.
Yeah.
And it said these things she fails in every single facet.
Right,
I've shown you proof of that, and you're still going against me.
Yeah.
Said what kind? I said I'm gonna make a big song and dance about this, which is failed to materialize because a lot of mainstream journalism don't want to touch about the reporting restrictions being relaxed. So they don't want to touch it. But this is where we've got to make the changes as men and activists to make sure that these atrocities that happen daily do not carry on, because otherwise there could be war in the streets. There could be serious protests and rioting and things like that.
Yeah.
Because all they're doing is clamping down on misogyny, and then resentment's building. I said, you're creating, when a lot of these feminists said, you're creating a breeding ground for misogyny by resentment and hatred and injustice. What do you think would happen?
Power,
said,
by oppressing one side, you're constantly creating
exactly. Cool. So I said, how can you then criticize people that said in the powdered wig days, the feminists would burn their bras on the street, march and protest. We can do the thing.
Do you know, like the suffragettes and all that? People don't realize, bro. They were a legit organization. That I'm talking guerrilla tactics. Like, I don't want to mention those specific words. Yeah, I don't want to mention the word itself on camera, but they had that they would engage in certain activities for change. It wasn't all peaceful protests, yeah, bro. But they don't tell you that about the suffragettes, and they're enjoying these laws and powers now. They don't tell you. If the men did that now, they'd be labelled, bro, as like you said, we'd be shipped
terrorists.
You'd be put in an orange suit, shipped up to Guantanamo Bay, bro.
Padded cell in a straitjacket.
Guantanamo Bay, bro, straight out, bro. Done. The Asian man did it, bro.
So I said, if it was good enough for the feminists in Emily Pankhurst Day, why is it not good enough for us now? It's out of balance. The society's out of balance.
It's out of balance, but I'll tell you why, yeah. This is why I think now, yeah. You got to remember, yeah. The family court system has been running as it is now, and it's got worse for the last 40 years, yeah, in England here, yeah. They've decimated many communities, right, yeah. It's just collateral damage, yeah. And they've gone unchallenged. They have gone unchallenged, number one, yeah. All right, you couldn't get the coverage because social media really has only been the last 10 to 15 years, so it's more and more coming out, people are getting more and more aware. So it's very hard to get that out there until obviously our old mate Matt O'Connor, Fast Justice, or Batman, Spider-Man, put it on the map first, how skewed the laws are, yeah. We didn't know about this before then, yeah, like openly, yeah. Now, the thing is this, if they've got away with it for the last 40 years, and I'm asking you, and I'm saying this to you, yeah, you know what you've been through, you know your journey, you know what you've seen and the horrors and the cases that you've got, yeah? If this has been going on for, let's say, a minimum of 40 years, right, yeah? These laws have gone unchallenged. There's been no mass protest. There has been no real... What's the last biggest protest you remember? The poll tax riots?
Well, no, to be for 2011 riots over Mark Duggan.
Mark Duggan, yeah? But, okay, that was a direct... police attack on the police, yeah, but there was no governmental change in law, yeah. There's been no change in law, yeah. So it was a riot to protest against the shooting, right? But beyond that, when's the last protest or riot that's had brought a change in law in anything? That was, when was that? 80s. So I'm saying to you, nothing has happened, and this system has gone unchallenged, and the collateral damage, generation after generation, is clocking up somewhere, somehow. And it's only going to get worse. So that's why I think it's not being challenged. And this seems to be, as you know, in the father space now, we talked about this off camera, it seems to be very hard to get the organizations, all the people with clout, the positions to actually come together, to get the fathers together, to get the movement united, to get 10 fathers to show up is hard work, yeah? And I mean, that's why I say...
our protest in July, we had 60, didn't we?
We had about, say, 50, 60, yeah, and obviously we hijacked the school protest, which looked good on social media. But it was hard. Like, we did what we did. It was good. It's a start. We've got to keep pushing. But why do you think it's not taking off? Like, now that we've touched on it, let's try and just cover that quickly. Why do you think what do the fathers movement need to do? How are we gonna? Because you know the monster we're up against. You've seen it yourself. You've seen the misandry, the bias system. The system is there to serve mum. That Mackenzie friend I did a podcast with, like you said, children's law was written around a mother. The Children's Act was written around,
that 989.
was written around a mother. Like, you know, what needs to happen, or if it does, nothing does happen, and so it carries on like this. All right, we are working on it. We're trying to get the information out there. What do you think the end result now looks like in 10 years? If nothing happens, if this carries on, more communities being decimated. As you know, look, my community is fairly new to the Asian community the last 10 years. And really in the last 5 years, this is now becoming a regular pattern. Women initiating divorce. All the red pill studies, what they've said. All the red pill talk, same in the Muslim community, initiating divorce. Now with all the children that have lost contact, more generations that have lost contact with their... My point, the effects of this now... So add the Asian Muslim community into the mix. Another 10, 15 years, bro. What does this look like? So that was the last of the nuclear family from where I see it, yeah, for me, yeah. That was strong on that belief of the family unit. It's no longer there, bro. That's gone. It's penetrated through, yeah. When we now look at the that situation playing out, where does this end? And
I think more criminality. There'll be more violent crime as well. I think there'll be more domestic abuse. Because obviously certain dads will be emotionally raw and say, you know what, if there's nothing that can be done, I'm going to become a vigilante and take the law into my own hands. I think also what they do, they'll encroach more on our freedoms in terms of how we can work. You know, if you're caught, you know, say protesting, they'll take away your, like they're doing the child maintenance service, take away your passport, your license, and that could lead to serious rioting and civil unrest. That's what will happen, because obviously you can only press someone down for so long before exposure. They're creating a breeding ground for misogyny by the unjust politics. And then there'll be a breakdown where men won't want to get married. And they're likely to have children, so the population
that's already
figures
happening.
will drop. Yeah, of course, it's already happening, but it's not happening at a fast enough rate yet for them to say, oh, listen,
it's not enough to make a big impact to say, whoa, we got a major problem here.
Yeah, well, you see in China now, they've reversed that totalitarian rule about 2 children. And Japan now are asking people in certain areas, they're paying them to come over and have children. I think that's how bad it's become.
Because without population, you got no workforce.
Exactly. No taxation.
Well, in England, you got a problem in it. It's an aging 60-70% of population is over 50, so there's an aging population.
Exactly, with a diminishing workforce, so that means less tax returns. So they're gonna have to do something about it soon. Okay. And they're gonna have to create an environment like they used to do in my grandparents' day, where there was like a married tax allowance.
Yeah, you should get that.
They're gonna have to create that, because I said, I don't know if it's a deliberate thing where they said, you know what, we're going to slow down the population
growth. They need to reward
growth.
The family.
Yeah, of course. Well, eventually they'll have to, because England will be finished.
Yeah, I agree. Because right now they've only incentivized divorce for women, for one gender. They've incentivized and empowered one gender to behave badly. It's financial incentives which is driving this behavior in all Western countries. Yeah.
And all we do as well is that a lot of these women that are like that, like with the personality disorders, narcissistic, what we do, we need to marginalize them. And have showed them, not even in our weak moments, we said, you know, I could do with some crumpet. Said, just marginalize them, have nothing to do with them. Because that's why you get this passport bros and the incel concept now, because they're thinking, oh, there's no female interaction. They think these men are not real men. I said, why do you think that? Because of the hypocrisies, the injustice in the welfare state and social services, and in divorce, women are entitled to half, whether they work for it or not. And in 90%...
I wish it was half, bro. More like 78, 90%, bro.
And 90% of children are with the mothers in single-parent households. So what do you think is going to happen?
Societal position, demasculation.
Of course.
Father innately knows he's going to lose. It's accepted society that he's going to lose contact with his kids.
And then the state supersedes the family in the home.
Yeah.
And which I don't think the government mind too much, because even... I went to my younger son's school the other day. They're telling about, oh, he hit someone defending himself in the playground. And they said, you said he must defend himself and strike back. I said, yeah, I do. I said, I'm not going to change it because you brought me to the office. I said, I don't send my son to school to be bullied. And do you really think, oh, gentle hands and you must be nice and come and report it? I said, Damiola Taylor reported people attacking the border, and he got knifed to death. Where was the teacher and the police to save them? So what you're trying to say is that they must be a grass for cow to eat them, because they must rely on the savior, the teacher savior to. So you can't do anything. So when in my time, when there's National Front in Mitcham, Pollard Hill, said the teacher's done nothing. So I had to fight, whether I got into trouble or not.
Yeah.
They said, what am I supposed to die because your sense of playing fair and being non-violent? You cannot sanitize aggression and violence in the human race. You can't.
Yeah.
It said all you do is suppress it and then have a big explosion. There has to be channels that they can release it in. Boxing, martial arts, military service, communities where men understand each other's problems and we can reason. I said, this is why you've created a situation where someone like Andrew Tate, a couple of years on social media, and he's like a big threat and a big figure because his lifestyle is aspirational. And men are thinking, and boys thinking, you don't really care about me. We're only here to be a helpmate to women. And that's what we'll do.
No, I agree. But look, the fact is he's saying, boys, do not be embarrassed or upset or all this toxic. When you're being told that men are toxic, and look, there is nothing for men and boys in the sense that now, and you don't fully understand that until you enter the social services or the family court system, and then you realize how little power or rights a man has purely based on his gender. He's automatically a perpetrator based on gender. He's automatically the bad parent on social services, with your own experience, what you said, based on gender.
But you know why that is?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Go on, tell us again.
Physicality.
Again.
In general, physically we're stronger, so we're always going to be the predator, and they're always going to be the prey.
Or is it no? Or is it in order for someone to be the prey, you have to label someone as a predator?
No, yeah, cool.
Without,
yeah, you do.
Without
you do,
a predator, you got no prey.
Yeah, cool. But because we're physically stronger, we can never say, oh, see, like we're before this new phenomenon of, the Victims Commission and Domestic Abuse Commission saying, oh, abuse can happen to anybody. Remember, the whole backing of it is the foundation of domestic violence, where they're thinking, oh, well, what can you? Woman slaps you in the face or hits you. Oh, you probably deserved it. You're a man up. That's the whole thing. And that's the most thing. Yeah, but even though it's the modern era where we're supposed to be of equal equity based and things like that, they still got the cultural perception of all physically you're stronger. What did you do for her to lamp you? What have you done? I said, then you're supposed to take it because you're bigger and stronger in general, not everyone, but in general, the average man's stronger than the average woman. So therefore his thing.
No, I get that, fine. But okay, let me put it this way, yeah. Where it was celebrated, so if the average man is stronger, that was celebrated and used and seen as an asset. My point is, this is just an ideology at the end of the day. This victimhood ideology. And does it come back down to, in order, the fact that we need victims, so we need perpetrators, and that model makes good money. It's just good business in society. Since the Western societies are conditioned, like I said, the positions that we have in society, everything you said, and why men are gravitating towards Andrew Tate is because of the conditioning we have in this society and everything we've seen playing out in services. That is just an ideology that has been created, which has then created this counter ideology to say, hold on, why is it wrong for a man to go gym and work out, hang out with some boys, have a laugh, always being told you shouldn't say this, you shouldn't say that to women, and all of this, and like, even beyond all of that, the lack of services and mechanisms in the law for men when something goes wrong. For example, these domestic abuse allegations, no problem, they should be taken seriously. Let's go to some evidence, pattern log, but even if the guy was bleeding and her and laying on the ground, police will still report it as though he deserved it, hence she's the victim, and she's then incentivized.
But that's all based
incentivized
because the physicality difference. That's why it's always the physicality difference that does that. It's the same like when you see an adult woman beating a child. They say that's terrible because the size and physicality is different. It's like when Europeans went to America. I remember I read in modern history how they said, oh, when the Spanish contador went in there, they said, oh, look, the native held the sword by the blade side, cut his hand, didn't realize what was happening. He said, they're ignorant of steel, they'll be easy to subjugate. That's the whole idea. Anytime you get someone that's physically more imposing or have superior technology or military power, what do you think is going to happen? They're not going to negotiate. You say, we don't have to. That's like me saying, you know what? I've got a dog and I'm barking and it's got no teeth. What's he going to do? Nothing. So they say, shut up. That's what happened. And they're using that biological difference to say women are more precious, the birth parent looked after, a temple of purity, and we're Neanderthals, aggressive, as they say, I'm going to say grape, violent, abusive, because the physicality, and they fear that if we lose our cool, they could be subjugated. That's what they build the victim and the predator thing on.
Okay, so look, I'll tell you how Sister Sally articulated that, yeah? Women know their limitations. This is how she said it, I suppose, how she articulated it, yeah? Women know their limitations, they know their strengths and weaknesses, and to counter any position of weakness, with the feminists now in power, in positions of power, who are making the laws and the rules, are countering all their weaknesses through the mechanisms in law and this indoctrination in society with all of this sort of modern culture. And now, obviously, it goes back to what you said then. Men are now feeling this on some level or other, from boys to men. Hence, they are gravitating to Andrew Tate. And okay, what do you? Let me ask you, just because I asked someone on the last podcast, I might as well ask you as well now. What do you think of Andrew Tate and the whole red pill space like? Because there's a lot of knowledge that's come out there, that's been put out, that I don't think I could have articulated in the way that the way they came out with it, from primal behaviors. And what they're saying is happening, if you look at it, is playing out in divorce. Women are initiating divorce. They're getting more attention. Social media's hyped up their value. They know what they can get. And all women, primarily, deep down, will try and just look at your situation, what you said. She finessed you because she saw you as a good man to have around. You know what I'm saying? So what do you think of the red pill, Andrew Tate, and that whole movement and the knowledge that they brought out? Generally, what do you think of it then?
No, in terms of the self-improvement and aspiration and uplifting ourselves economically and upskilling in terms of, employment and business. That's good.
Discipline and stuff like that.
Yeah, discipline as well. But with Tate, because a lot of the things that he says I agree with, but when you start doing stuff like, I made a girl fall in love with me, because I've seen the videos, I F them to make them fall in love with me. So I could do my, was it like a version of OnlyFans he was doing?
Webcam business.
Yeah. So I said, once you do that and then you're saying you're a public speaker.
No, but he's saying that was then.
I know, but the immorality, remember, that's what they do. You see, when it comes to politics, they let you progress, but they always got some kind of dirt on you for leverage, so they can expose you. Look, have you seen the pattern for when I was growing up? They knew about Jimmy Savile for decades. I remember when I was a kid, I went to go on Jim Will Fix It in the late 80s, like I was 7. Jim Will Fix It, I went to get a quad bike, and my dad said, "You're not going on that show. That man's odd."
Right.
30 years later, and then they came out and said, how many people in the BBC knew that he was like that?
They must have known.
But they didn't want to think. He's knighted by the realm. And they think, so they don't mind as long as they can benefit and use it as leverage, and you follow the status quo. That's what I've noticed.
Okay.
So he's talked out against it. So they're bigging up his, that's what they do. They dig up his past and said, you know what? Maybe a bit of tax evasion. Oh, how did he get that? He's immoral. He's challenging the status quo, so we must besmirch him. They do it all the time. They knew what Boris Johnson was doing in COVID, in lockdown. They knew all about that. But because he could get them into government and win an election, we'll overlook that for now.
Of course.
Until the time is right and we've had enough of him, we'll push him out. This is what that's why people don't trust politicians in the main. These underhanded tactics, telling you what you want to hear, being, open and transparent, but then being taciturn at the same time, deflecting away from real issues that would embarrass them. Right. And that's how they maintain the control of the status quo.
Okay, but this is what I think then. You're right. So if you're saying all that, if you look at the family court system and how the family, all the mechanics of the system to fleece money out of a father because his primal emotion to want to be with his child and protect his child, it's been exploited. They made money out of that. They rile up mum and incentivize it. The more wild the allegations, the longer it goes on, the more it makes money. Now, let me put it another way to you then as well there. So in the family court system is mainly, say, the working class and people from, say, our range, are in there, Those with money can still afford barristers, lawyers. They might lose a bit of money. They're never going to be poor. They're never going to be on the streets. And because of power influence, they might even get good, reasonable access to kids. Because you don't hear too many stories of like people at the top end and family, other than celebrities and actors, but generally those at the top that with money that you don't see, they're not in the celebrity space. Whatever their situation was, you don't hear about their child access issues, So this mainly affects us down here, So is this purposely done to keep us down here, keep us poor, and keep our kids not achieving their best from single-parent homes, to keep the slaves
working in the fields? Of course.
Applying the field, bro. We one of them.
Because like you said,
how do you do it?
Of course, like you said, what it is? Aging population, so diminishing workforce, less taxation. The ones that are working said we got to keep them on the Ferris wheel. Like the hamster that you see chasing and cheese never getting there, always running. They got to keep you doing that because all the assets and the infrastructure has been sold off to foreign private corporations. So that's what they do. So they said we got to keep our workers, the labour force, going. If we have a strong family unit together, they can pool resources, build themselves up, retire early. It's like I went to my first work experience was at Lambeth County Court. Never forget, when I was 15. My mum got me in there. And then she got me a week at the Commission of Racial Equality. This is in the 90s, just before I left school. what happened then? The circuit judge brought me into a repossession case, and he asked all the kids that were like 14, 15, said, "Oh, what's going on here?" I said, "Oh, this is a repossession order." He says, "How would you know that when you're only, 15?" I said, "My parents are homeowners, and they had a trouble in the early 90s when they had the negative equity," I said, and 15% interest rate. So they used to argue about it. So I used to hear. Right. So I learned those things from them. Yeah. So I said, "You said, where are you from?" I said, "Well, I want to talk to you. That's very insightful. None of the others know. So come with me." Took me in a room on his own, the circuit judge. That county court's not there anymore in London, but took me in there. He's like, "Oh, where are you from?" I said, "I was born here." He said, "Where are your parents from?" I said, "They were born here too." He said, "But where are you really from?" I said, "My grandparents were born in Jamaica on both sides." So I said, "Oh, fair enough." He said, "Oh, where are they?" I said, "Oh, my mother's parents have gone back to Jamaica to retire." "What age?" 55. 55? 55? That's 10 years of income tax and national insurance contributions we're missing out on. Yeah. Said, "Someone's going to have to pay for it." And it, well, sure bloody won't be me. I'm afraid it's going to be a you. At the time, I was like, 15. So what's he talking about? Yeah, as I got to about 26, 27, I said, I realised what he's saying. The man's leaving, building up himself, comes to Jamaica, building himself up, property, little car assets. Working classes are now carrying on like middle classes. And I looked up, scaled the ladder. Yeah, we can't allow so many people to climb up. Yeah. You see, because the system will crash.
So the family court system, destroying the family unit, taking the wealth out. Because I said, look, when you employ barristers and lawyers, they're from up there, bro. No disrespect, but they're up there, yeah. That money's taken from the working class pool going up there. When they take money out of daddy's estate to then cover mum's financial order, that's the children's inheritance. And they tell mum, "Don't worry, mum. Exactly. Boom, gone, yeah. So my point is they're taking money at this working class pool, siphoning it up. Dad's in his 40s, has to start again, has to buy a house again, has to do double shifts. You know, like hard if the 12 hours.
If he doesn't die from a heart attack or cancer. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. So that's why you see the public health inquiry that I sent you. They're going about, we need to investigate why this happened. They know why it's happening. Yeah, listen, it's all the thing to placate and pander to seem like they're doing something to help us when they're not really.
Yeah, man. And okay, so the family court system in that sense, do you think the government... Okay, so I've always said, my policy is this, or my belief is this, that when we say it's a broken system, it ain't. It's a perfectly well-organized oil machine. What do you call it? The conveyor belt, where this churns around money out of thin air. Basic human primal emotion of a relationship where a man or a woman is going to have a child. Everyone's going to have a relationship at some point, have a child. How do you monetize that model with conflict? So when I say it's a broken system, it ain't broken.
It's designed.
It is perfectly designed to fleece money and play on your emotions. And those solicitors, barristers, they're all in on it, fleecing guys who just working out class guys thinking they're going to see their kids. They're just fleecing them. That all adds into, I think, to keep us in the slave mind programming. So then when you listen to, say, Andrew Tate, some of the records, do you think maybe this guy, listen, he ain't talking completely. You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah. They know that he's not completely. He's not. But the thing is, as men, you've got 2 daughters, I've got 1.
No, I don't.
I've got a mum and sister. But, so them things I can understand it. It's controversial.
I agree.
Look. If a man like that was talking like that, I'd look at his teeth.
No, look, straight up. I got daughters, sisters, and I've never been. Even with my boys, I may have used that language here, but that wasn't me. That's not my personality. But I don't like. I'm uncomfortable referring to all bitches and hoes and all that. I'm not even about that. And with my age now, considering I have 2 daughters, I would not be seen talking like that. But look, like Andrew said, he was young. That was his past. That was a business. He's made money. Since then, he's now has to be more responsible. He's got a bigger audience.
Yeah, of course he has.
He's a man with everything. He's gone into religion now, and he's chosen a different path of life. You know what I mean? So,
but he even up to during lockdown because I never knew about him until about 2021. Yeah,
I didn't know about it until I entered the family court system. I mean, who's that? What are you talking about? Bro, check this out.
But he said he's not like he was saying these stuff when he's 19, 20. He was still kind of saying this stuff at 33, 32. So once you've got that, for some people, you never have any grounds.
No, I get
we know Donald Trump says, look, grab a woman by the underneath, their vagina. If my daughter's so good looking, if I wasn't her father, I would date her. He can get away with it. Yeah. But yet, he became president, and women still voted for him in droves. But it's just locker room talk. So you get the Simpson men, you get pick-me's amongst women.
Yes.
So there's some people that say they just accept it and they don't even particularly mind it.
Mm.
So why is it that Andrew Tate, when we've got people like Jeremy Epstein that's had nonsense around him, for decades they knew about it, and conveniently he dies in his cell saying it was suicide. But Andrew Tate's been hung like he's a Jimmy Savile type. They've targeted him because he's not listening to the status quo and he's not being subverted.
He's not.
He's like you said, he's not being plugged. He's not being plugged back into the matrix. He's one of them. That's the thing. Like he's doing a Morpheus and a Neo.
Yeah.
And even that stuff that came out when I was a teenager. That film. So I've been talking about that film from long ago. But he's popularized it because he's popularized. But that's been well.
But the ideology, you're right, bro. It is bang on. And once you enter the family court system, bro, as a man, you definitely get unplugged because you see the reality of what it is. All right, look, Shaun, I think we will carry on talking loads about this. We'll go to a quick break, and then let's just start with equal starts, where you started, how you started, your journey up the ladder in finding out the mechanics of the system, what you've learned, and the position. I know you're on the APPG for men last time. So just to start from equal starts, where you started, how you started, what you do, what work you do, everything about that up until now, and let's get that out there after the break, yeah? Right, welcome back to Disqualified Dads. This will be part 2 of the same podcast, so I'm going to reintroduce everything. This is Shaun from Equal Starts. He's going to introduce himself in a minute and his platform, and we're going to talk about the work that he has been doing in the father space for many years now, and if you need any information and whatnot, who to reach out to, where to go, and we're going to try and put as much information as we can out there today. Shaun, just reintroduce yourself, put all your emails and addresses and whatnot out there, and we'll sort of take it from there, yeah?
Okay, my name is Shaun Buchanan. I'm the director at Equal Start, an unincorporated organization to help men with mental health, parental alienation, and women who are being abused and outside of their family home. If you'd like to contact us, you can contact me on Instagram at equalstart_7. I repeat, at equal_start7, and you'd have the Instagram connection there. We also have an email at equalstartcic@gmail.com, and you can contact us there for any information if you're going through troubles with the family courts or the child service system or parenting in general in terms of child maintenance and appearances in court or visiting your children and what you're supposed to pay in terms of maintenance payments. You can contact us.
So if you need any information, do you mind me saying where your base lies in South London? Yeah,
that's right.
Right, he's based south of the river, bandit country as far as I'm concerned, but it is what it is. If you need information on the family court, the social services, CMS payments, anything like that, reach out to him on Instagram or send him an email. He's got plenty of knowledge and information all around these services, and he can help guide you through and save you money as well during the process. And don't go to any family law solicitors either. Reach out to people like us first, get some information. Now, Shaun, tell us about Equal Starts, when it started, the work that it's doing, the positions and the boardrooms that you managed to get yourself into, and everything you're doing basically.
As I said before, Equal Start, I officially started it in 2018 with a friend, a former colleague called Jonathan Brooks. He actually named it because he said, Shaun, you're doing a lot of this activism work, and he said you won't get through certain doors unless you have some kind of unincorporated community interest company or a community interest company guaranteed by CIC. So I went about that, got my articles association, set it up. I made some social media on Facebook.
Can I ask you a question? So, for example, you know what you just said about an association that's CIC incorporated, yeah? So could Disqualified Dads become a CIC incorporated?
Yeah, definitely. It sounds technical, but if you go online, there's information how to fill out your deeds and memorandum, basically like your mission statement and how you're going to serve, who you represent, and what you want to do in the community.
Right.
So that's how you have to do it. And then once you've got that, you don't even have to incorporate. You can have it as an unincorporated, so you don't have to do any kind of registered accounts with what's it called again?
HMRC.
Not the HMRC.
Limited company.
Limited company. The business.
Business account. Yeah.
Business. So you don't have to do any kind of business accounting nothing with HMRC.
Oh, like
if it's
funds and stuff, yeah, yeah.
unincorporated.
Oh,
So if you
right,
become
yeah.
official now, you have to do all that registered
Oh, gotcha,
HMRC,
yeah.
so they can check your accounts to see what you're doing with the money, things like that, so you're not evading tax. So
So if you
you
got
have to do that.
sponsors and stuff like that, for
Yeah,
example.
you can get sponsors as well, but they usually contribute in terms of finances, and
Okay.
then you can receive donations. To be fair, even as an unincorporated, you can receive donations because what they do, there's a organization called Social Change Agency, and they've got an incubator system where they open up an account under their name, and then you can get donations and funding for charitable organizations, central government funding paid into it, and they will front that money for you in their own account, and then they'll let you take it out to do the stuff that you need to do day to day with your organization.
Okay, but what other benefits?
That's it, company's house, sorry, company's house,
yeah.
company's house.
But what other benefits can you get by being CIC incorporated? Is there any other benefits that come with
Yeah,
it?
you can, because you can get funding from, like, say, the Natural Lottery. You can get funding from your local authority. It opens you up to being able to get official funding from official bodies without relying on private donations from working class people that haven't got much to spare, or they can only give in frequently.
Yeah, listen.
But
man,
the thing with that though is that if you do that, the protesting and lobbying, they try to limit you on doing that.
They're silent. You'll be
silent.
So basically, slightly silent. Yeah.
Yeah, they're biting your hand that feeds them, so they don't want you really campaigning against government policy.
Yeah.
So my thing especially with Equal Start, is that I used to finance it through my contracting work with the maintenance, as you know.
So you put
when I was on, about $960 a grand a week, limited company, I could put maybe 150, 200 pounds into it without worrying about my lifestyle at the time. So that's how I started off, and then as I started to do the petition attached to Equal Start that you will obviously advertise soon.
Yeah.
Is people used to on the change.org, they'd have a donate button. So I didn't used to promote it me personally, but when they used to go in there, it says sign the petition, can you donate? So it does it for you. So that's how I used to get donation. And then the people that I knew in my personal sphere, like my woman, my close friends, they used to every now and then put £20 in. A few of them, because they really cared about it, they started to make, 10, £20 a month. Not much, but it stops me after thing. And then when I done my little jerk seasoning business, what I used to do is 10% of the profits of that from selling the little marinades. I used to use that for it as well. Okay. And then other people saw me doing that on my own, and they want to contribute, but it's all infrequent. It's not consistent enough to challenge the women's aids,
you need
shelters.
Real donations.
You can't think so. But that's how you can start off. So that's the way to go to begin with.
Okay,
little enough.
That's good to know. Okay, so you've got CIC incorporated,
unincorporated.
Yeah, you've got that registered, and then and obviously with all the funding, private funding, and your family and friends circle are contributing to this cause. They're passionate about the cause, hence kept you going. So tell us more. Tell us more about the journey and where you're at with all of this.
Well, as you know, as I said before, when I had the court hearing for my eldest son, about 8 months after the initial hearing was over in the lower magistrates family courts, I said, you know what, I'm going to try and make it more official, because when I was contacting MPs, politicians, central government figures like the mayor's office, they would never speak to me. And then it's only when I spoke to more seasoned campaigns that said, Shaun, the reason why is because you're not putting in key things like you represent stakeholders, which you said you should be using your petition to say that you represent them, a group of people, like a community.
Right, so you can't just be one-man show. I'm here representing on behalf of so many people who are struggling or suffering like this, bang, and then they'll listen to you. That's what you're saying, yeah?
Yeah, that's what they'll do.
That's the process.
It gives you more officialdom. It
right.
makes you seem like you're serious. You're not just ranting and venting.
You're not just a geezer rocked up having a moan.
Yeah, cool. So once I learned that, and certain language around, like, yes, I represent these amount of stakeholders, so I use the petition figures at the moment. I think it's about 7,668. So
tell us more about the petition. Yeah, while we're on it, just put the information out about the petition, what we need, and what the petition's about for those who don't know. Yeah.
Well, as a part of Equal Start, the petition I created was for non-resident parents to prevent the gender bias.
Yes,
this is
I
about
remember
men.
that one. Yes.
So all non-resident parents that are unjustly alienated, I created a petition around that and put out step by step what I wanted to have in terms of fairer decision making in family courts, more men in child services, more representation of men in the Domestic Abuse Commission and the Victims Commission. I wanted more male teachers in schools to prevent the gender disparity, because as much as they say that men dominate construction and the finances, that's only a small amount of industries. There's a load of industries no one speaks about where there's more women there, and no one says that is a gender disparity. This is all deliberately blacked out by mainstream media in their attempt to prevent misogyny.
Mm-hmm.
So I created that petition. I put in there that we'd like to see a cultural change as well and see if the government would help us promote the petition. But they said, no, we won't do that unless you put it on the government website. So what I done then, once I got to a few thousand, I started to leverage that database and contact them individually. Said, oh, would you be prepared to go on protest with us? Or if I had meetings with, like, say, the All Parliamentary Group for Fathers, which I'm now managed to get in the door with, which that they have an official, well, not official, but unincorporated community interest company. They allowed me to go in there
Got your foot in
in
the
collaboration by leveraging, split the difference as well, doing voluntary work with them. I was able to go to the mayor's office and I said, look, this is who I work with in collaboration. These are our mission statements, and we want to see a strategy of violence against men and boys, not just one for men and women and girls. We want one for men and boys. So there's more parity, there's more equity, which we're supposed to have in a society that's supposed to be a democracy and fair. So democratic and fair. So once I got in there and spoke to not Sadiq Khan himself, but his lieutenants, we went in there and said, look, this is our violence against men and boys strategy, which we think is fair and reasonable. We're not trying to detract from women or their funding, but we just want a bigger slice of the pie from the public funding for men and boys
Also,
to help mental health, to show them how to navigate interpersonal relationships with women. So it's not moronic and forceful. We can find a happy medium. So that's what I've done to get into those spaces. As an individual activist, I tried for 2-3 years. They would just ignore me. Also, in terms of information, you can always go to the Information Commissioner's office and do a freedom of information request around concerns that you have with any public institution. This is what they don't advertise openly because they fear rebellion or too many people combining together in a strategic way to challenge the systems of power.
System in place.
So that's why I created Equal Start as a vehicle to do these kind of things, and I'm starting to make a little headway in actually meeting with these people where before they used to fob me off. I'm on the Old Parliamentary Group for Fathers now, in negotiation with the mayor's office.
What does that look like? What does that look like that when you're in that parliament? What does that entail? Like do you go there once every 6 months and you have to put your position in? Or like, how does it work? What are the mechanics of that? Do you know?
When I went to approach them, I just emailed them from my Equal Start email. I said, look, this is my mission statement of strategy for men and boys. So there's a greater balance for fathers and their sons as they grow up and become fathers themselves.
Right.
So what they said is that, oh, would you like to be part of our mailing list? That's how it started. So once I was part of the mailing list, I wasn't really getting invited to the meetings. So because I know Sister Sally, as you say, I told them I voluntarily Split the Difference. And because Split the Difference is actually a registered community interest company with a transparent public accounts that you can see in Company's House. And they've seen obviously her image and how long she's been in a good 4 or 5 years now. They allowed to say, yes, you know what, we would like you to come to the meetings and participate. But I missed the last one because of money. And this one of the September the 13th, they give me a Zoom link so I can look and view. Yeah. But they do face-to-face as well. They do have an invite where you can actually go to Parliament like we did during the Justice Walk. Yeah. And you can go there and make personal face-to-face representations and obviously network to find out what goes on in the corridors of power that we don't see every day on the street.
Yeah, Shaun, I got to give credit, man. That's some good stuff. You're in there doing this, knocking on the doors, opening those doors, because all of that is like, you know, if you're not in those circles, it's like miles away. How do you get in there to make? You know what I mean? So look, keep going. I think you're doing good. We need someone like you. I think just keep pressing, keep going. All the research you've done, all the stuff we've talked about off camera. I think you do a lot more than you're getting credit for. I think you're doing a lot more work behind the scenes than I think you're known for or getting credit for. Yeah. So keep on it. Keep doing it. You know, I'll try and have your back as much as I can and support it as best way I can and promote as best I can. before I forget, also just want to say that petition, is that still circulating? Can
Yeah.
people see it? Yeah. So where can they find the petition? On your Instagram, or how can they get hold of a petition?
Yeah, I have a link tree on my Instagram
Mm-hmm.
at @equal_start_7. Sorry, no, @equal_start7.
I'll put
You'll
it in
find
the up here. I'll put his Instagram up there.
yeah, and you'll
Now,
find the petition there on Linktree.
what I'll do, if I can put that link to that petition in the description of this video, I'll try and do that as well. Yeah, if it's possible. So we'll try that as well if those who want to do it. But please, look, get behind it, sign it. All the men and boys out there, you have no idea or the laws in place to keep us oppressed. Really, I mean, I can't. The reason I'm wearing this orange suit is I have no human rights. Once you enter the system, as a man, as a father, you have no real human rights. That's the reality, that you have no rights. I might as well be. I am just short of waterboarding. They might as well start waterboarding fathers, bro. This.
I agree.
They might as well start waterboarding. That's the
agree.
only bit that's left that they ain't done is the physical torture. They might as well start that as well, yeah? And also, while we're on the subject, look, shout out to Sister Sally and Split the Difference for all the work they're doing, the awareness and the equality they're fighting for to get services and laws in place for men and boys. Is very important, and you don't realize it until you enter the system, unfortunately. Shaun, tell us a little bit more about so you've recently got into, you're saying that the corridors of power, so to speak. Yeah, that is where you are up to now. Yeah.
Lobbying.
Okay, and is there anything else that you're doing in this space? Any other work? Because I know you were doing during the weekdays. Was it Daddy's Voices? I remember you telling me.
Yeah, on Thursday.
Yeah, tell us about that.
A forum. That forum was basically a safe space where men can speak. You see how Andrew Tate has his war room?
Yeah.
That is a safe space for men, so we could talk without anyone saying, "Oh, what's wrong with them? How comes they're gathering there? They're talking out of turn." It's a safe space that anyone can speak at.
Is that still going? Is that still running?
It hasn't been running as frequently as I would like over the last 3 or 4 months, because I think we had a funding group called Impact on Urban Health, and they're a charitable organisation run by St Thomas and Guy's Hospital in Lambeth. So they contribute funds to community interest companies in Lambeth, Southwark and Lewisham.
Right.
So because it was connected to that, we used to get money from them to run that forum, and they'd provide tickets for going cinema. Last year, December, we had a live spa in Essex that they sent us to. To be fair, it was pretty pricey. It was about £300 a pop. Nice. And they paid for it, but they had some kind of restructuring in February, and all of a sudden the things bottomed out, and the person that led that group, he kind of got distracted and said, "Oh, look, everything's on hold to September." Yeah. And then I found out last month that they said they pulled the funding now and they're not going to be doing that. As soon as people heard that, this is where they thinned the herd. A lot of people that were just along for the ride for the free cinema trips, the live spa and things like that, they were there. But when it came to trying to operate and be operational, functional, they've all fallen off now. So the core group, me, Daniel Morris, Kevin Brazan, Kingsley Akaruke, Lucky Ochoy, we've been trying to run it offhand every few weeks. But the momentum, to be fair, has dropped as the problems that we're talking about.
So fathers need to help themselves, really. I mean, look. So look, all right. Look, what message? Obviously, look, we've got a lot of quite a bit of footage, yeah. But what message do you have for fathers, firstly? Fathers in my community, your community, fathers going through this, fathers that are unaware of these laws and not going through the system. What message do you have for fathers generally across the board, from any angle? My community, your community, who needs to change? Do we need to change? How we need to? Anything you want to say to fathers, firstly?
Well, firstly, we have to unite. That's the long and short of it, really. Without the unity and the collective action, the collective will, the collective strategy, we will be going in nowhere fast. Also, we have to leverage our community to make sure we access, local authority, public meetings where we can voice our concerns in a fair and balanced way. Because obviously, if we vent and carry on or are threatening, they would turn around and say, "Oh, look, they're misogynists. They're bitter, they're twisted. We don't want to deal with them."
You've got to come across professional. Be professional, be smart. We're not, because we don't want to be labelled as just some angry men in one corner shouting. No one's listening. So professionally, come together, organized.
Definitely. But also, we have to check in with one another, because while you're doing that, it's a lot of time spent at the coalface trying to fight the system. But spend time with people that you still care about, and close friends and families that are genuine, that care about your emotional well-being. You need that kind of safe haven. That's why we used to run Daddy's Voices forum, because it was a space where we could talk about, sci-fi, film, sports. It wasn't just, all like activism, change. It wasn't like that. We would sit down, discuss our hobbies, our desires, our vision, our hopes for the future. So that way we can kind of build a brotherhood. And I think that should go across all ethnicities and all backgrounds, because we had Asian people, Chinese people in there, we had Caucasian people in there, people from my community. And it's that value system that kept us together for the 18 months where he was running executively. And that's how you build communities. Because without communities and community power, the collective power, it will go astray. And then you'll get these seasons where everything seems to be going well, but then a lot of people will drop off and say, you know what, I'm bogged down by life, or I've got these personal problems which stops me from being proactive in making sure that these problems don't happen to the next generation, or maybe our grandchildren. It has to start today. And you only can do that once you keep fueling yourself with positive people that are willing to help you.
Okay, what message would you have for, because look, I say everything we're doing, ultimately, you could argue that you're saying we're doing it for fathers and men, but the truth is we're doing it for the kids. We're doing it for the children, and to ensure we bring some change, so our children don't have to see this. Our grandchildren don't have to see this, because there's little boys, like you said, you got this South London, bro, there's 16, 17, 18-year-old boys on the streets here every day. There's problems on the streets, as we know, in London generally. We're doing it for the kids to try and make sure they come from a strong family unit, and they can, and they don't, and when they grow up, they don't have to go through this. So ultimately, this is for the kids, and
the legacy.
The people that are being used for this by the government is the women. What message do you have to the mothers in your community, mothers in my community, mothers in all communities, as to why we need to not engage in this and the system, and whatever happens in a relationship, why do we need to think of these kids first? Like, you know what I mean? Because there's some of them, like, they're emotional, they're upset. People are making money on the back of this. You know what I'm saying? What message could you put out to them?
To be fair, as women and mothers, if you love your children and you say you're selfless, then, like, as it may be a cliche, but you're supposed to operate in love and affection to make sure that they grow up with both parents. Obviously, if the parents are safe, if the mother or father is endangering the safeguard, the 5 pillars of safeguard in terms of neglect and jeopardizing child protection, or they're around inappropriate people, I can understand. But unless it's those circumstances, there's no way that there should be access be cut off from the other family, the distar family. That goes for men and women. If you're operating in love, despite the problems you may have and disagreements in your own personal relationship, as we know, is the best outcome is for the child to receive love from both sides of the family and in both parents. And if you're really concerned with that, think about empathy. Would you like if this situation was reversed and the dad was doing that to you, or in the case of some of the mums that have been alienated unjustly, if she was to do that to you as a father, or the father to the mother? These things, fundamentally, most people will say that is wrong. So without that love and unity and that empathy and putting yourself in someone else's shoes, how can you expect to really make any change or make the society that we live in a better place? Sometimes we have to sacrifice. That's part of parenthood. Sacrifice, commitment, even though emotionally it may not be going too well. There has to be a foundation, a principle we stand on to make sure that we keep the unity and sanctity of family. Without that love and commitment, it'll just all come tumbling down like a deck of cards.
Yeah, it's already.
But one thing I'd like to add is make sure,
yes,
especially dads who are alienated, read this book by Will Collins. It shows up the very injustices that we're suffering right now as men in society.
William Collins, The Empathy Gap.
And this is a key book in terms of studies around child services, family courts, local authority, public health with the NHS in terms of, like, when we suffer from heart disease and prostate cancer, and how there's no public services to make sure there's national screening for men like they do with breast cancer. These injustices, the feminists will make out like it's women are so broken down, they're under threat, they have to be scared to cross the road at night. When in terms of the data, the statistics that their own institutions are producing, that is not the case at all. And this book is a good, I would say, like a male Bible, for instance, or Quran, that this shows you the fundamental errors and the propaganda that has been pumped out by the system currently. And it shows you without bias the political narrative. A lot of the studies and data in there is from institutions set up by government. So they can't tell you, oh, it's biased, or who wrote that, or it's been manipulated. These are statistics from being supposed to be impartial institutions and departments, universities, peer-reviewed research. And Mr. Collins has amalgamated it into one book, so you can use it as a reference point to prove what we're saying is true, and it's not just made up or in our heads, or we're upset and bitter about, being alienated. It's living proof. And what makes it worse, government knows about this, and they're not doing enough to rebalance the scales towards harmony and justice.
It's part, like you said, look, appears to be part of a bigger agenda to keep us divided. Remember, the oldest trick in the book is divide and conquer. And if there's no active war in place, like I said, they can keep throwing this narrative about immigrants and this and that. They've divided gender. The biggest division on the planet is man and woman. You get them fighting against each other, you can then emphasize more control. Now, what I say is, look, we're not here to bash women, we're not here to bash men. Men and women, we need each other. This is not an anti-female sort of campaign, anything like that. We've got mothers, sisters, do you see what I'm saying? Yeah, nephews, nieces. So we need to pull together for the greater good of society and humanity, ultimately. That's the bottom line. What I'll say, I just want to take the opportunity also myself, because in the process, you forget sometimes your own journey. To my kids, look, I love you guys, I miss you. I am doing all of this, doing all of this, putting myself out there on this campaign trail, not just for me and you, but to ensure that you don't have to go through this tomorrow. My son doesn't have to face the day where he loses contact with his kid tomorrow. This is all for you and all those kids and all those alienated kids out there. And do you want to just give a quick motivational message to fathers who are going through the system? Not everyone's as strong as others. Do you know what I'm saying? Like yourself. To little motivational message just to keep going. Hanging a little message for fathers just to hang in there.
Stay the course, brothers. Stay the course. Because disqualified dads and equal start. We do this, as he said, for the children, but also for men's mental health.
Yes.
To make sure that we're fully fledged members of society, and that we can operate in cooperation, but in happiness as well.
Yeah, guys, don't give up. Look, don't give up. Keep pushing. Keep battling. The day you give up is the day it's over. You don't need to give up. Keep pushing. There's better days ahead, but you'll only see them if you don't give up. You're not alone. We're with you, and we're pushing, and we're battling on all fronts for change. Shaun, have you got anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
Justice in our time. Stay united.
Yep. Thank you guys for watching Disqualified Dads. I'm sure me and Shaun will connect again soon, get some more, we'll talk a bit more in depth about certain specific subjects. But thank you for watching. This is Disqualified Dads.